Hello and welcome back. In our last video we discussed the idea of the value Zodiac. Hello, my name is Nick, and if you bear with me for the next few minutes, we're going to provide you an overview of the value Zodiac model and what it can mean for you and how to become more successful in your relationships and in your pursuit of your own personal goals. If you recall from the last video, you'll remember that the value Zodiac is a conceptual model that I developed that's designed to measure an individual's worldview. It measures the source of the 6 basic disagreements that span our human values. Before we discuss the archetypes in detail, I think it's very important to discuss how the model was developed. You recall from our first video that I was really puzzled why it is that so many times recently I have ended conversations with the words, well, we'll just agree to disagree. We are seeing impasses in a lot of places these days. And I suspected that perhaps it had something to do with the beliefs and the notions that we held most closely to us, our values. That is the reason why we are constantly be arriving at these impasses. So I started to assemble a list of human values. Eventually that list exceeded over 300 different terms. I then began to consolidate that list into various overarching themes. And there were 12 different themes that I derived. And for each theme, I tried to think of a simple profession that seemed to typify the ideas and concepts represented in that theme. And as I thought about it a bit more, I realized that each set of human values appeared to be opposed by another set of human values, represented by a different archetype. I called that opposite archetype the nemesis. So now I had 12 archetypes arranged in 6 different pairs, and I put those archetypes and those pairs into a circular model. And what emerged is a new zodiac, the zodiac of human value, where each set of powerful human emotions and values was countered by an equally powerful and positive set of opposing values. So the value Zodiac helps us to realize who it is we're most likely to have a strong disagreement with. If you identify most with, say, the healer, looking across the model to the hermit, this is who you're most likely to have a strong disagreement with, because in reality, the values that you hold most dear are in somewhat direct conflict with those of the hermit. Now let's discuss each archetype in a bit more detail to get an understanding about how these pairs interact and why they are the way they are. The first pair consists of the stonecutter, whose central value theme is consistency, and the inventor, whose central value theme is creativity. The stonecutter believes in precedent, the tried and true, what has always worked in the past. These people know that things worked in the past for a reason, and that trying to keep things stable and consistent is a good plan to try and keep things safe and pleasant going forward. They like the status quo. But they are countered by the inventor. The inventor has the central value theme of creativity. These are your innovators, your entrepreneurs, the people always trying to push the edge of the envelope. They constantly try to upend the status quo. So if on one side you have a group of people who value the status quo, and on the other side a group of people who are trying to upend the status quo, you can see that there is some natural friction between those two groups. This gives you an idea about how the value Zodiac works. The next pair consists of the scientist, whose central value theme is intellect, and the shaman, whose central value theme is harmony. The scientist believes in logic, reason, rationale. They're very data-driven individuals who believe in finding truth in the physical world around them. By contrast, the shaman is much more intuitive. They are not bogged down by a lot of data. They go with their gut a lot. They represent a lot of these Eastern notions of balance, harmony, the yin-yang concept. The shaman believes in finding truth from within. A lot of your spiritual values arise from the shaman. Again, one group believes in finding truth in the physical world, other for more nebulous concepts. There definitely is some elements of friction between these two groups. The next pair consists of the police officer, whose central value theme is structure, and the free spirit, whose central value theme is hedonism. The police officer are the people who give us the rules upon which we build our society. They are big on law and discipline, order. By contrast, the free spirit believes in hedonism. Now, some people would consider hedonism to have a negative connotation, but not in this context. When we say hedonism, we mean people who just are trying to revel in the raw emotion of the moment. They are big on wonder and exhilaration. They have a lot of energy, sucking up the marrow of life, as Thoreau would say. Now, for example, if we had a party, we want to have both of these groups here, because the free spirit's contagious energy is such that everybody will have a good time because they feed it on that energy and that enjoyment. You also want to have a police officer there, because the police officer is going to be sure that everybody is going to be having a good time safely. They're going to be able to make sure that assigned roles are carried out, that the food is ordered, that the playlist makes sense. Both people have a lot to contribute to a party, but they do so in very different ways. The next pair consists of the healer, whose central value theme is community, and the hermit, who believes in individuality. The healer has wonderful notions of benevolence, tolerance, unity. They believe in bringing people together to solve problems. They're more collectivist in their approach. By contrast, the hermit, central value theme is humility. They embody a lot of these more American notions of autonomy, self-reliance, freedom. Above all, the hermit rebels against coercion, whereas the healer sometimes thinks that bringing people together to solve problems is the best way to solve those issues. The hermit would often prefer to do so alone, or at least do so voluntarily. And this is the nature of the biggest disagreements between these people. The next pair consists of the jester, whose central value theme is show, and the gift giver, whose central value theme is humility. The jesters love being the center of attention. They are big on beauty and how things appear. They're very effective at optics. They care about how things look. Now, some people might characterize these people as superficial, but that would be a mistake. Because the jester knows, particularly when it comes to ideas such as persuasive communication, that the vessel that carries the message is just as important as the message itself. Because if the vessel carrying the message is not credible, it is very easy to reject the message. The jester is countered by the gift giver, whose central value theme is humility. These people are wonderful people to work for. They are always showering their team with encouragement. When someone makes a mistake, it is the gift giver who's the first to forgive. They do not need to be the center of attention. They do not crave the limelight. They get much more satisfaction from putting the limelight on others. Now, for those of you who may be a gift giver who happens to be in a leadership position, I have something that you should do. Next time you go to work, I want you to get your team together, put them in a big circle, and just tell them just how happy that they should be to be working for you. But then again, you are humble, so the chances of this happening in the next million years are slim and none. But that's okay. You're still excellent bosses. The final pair consists of the Olympian, whose central value theme is workmanship, and the farmer, whose central value theme is stewardship. Now, on the surface, these two groups appear to be very similar. The Olympian believes in merit, excellence, the pursuit of perfection. Similarly, the farmer believes in stewardship, expectancy theory, the belief that work invested today will pay off handsomely down the road. But these two archetypes are different in two very subtle but very significant ways. The first is in how they both perceive time. The Olympian perceives time in a very near-term context. Most athletic events, for instance, are very short in duration. So therefore, the Olympian likes to get his feedback relatively quickly. They have a very near-term focus. They want to constantly have feedback upon which to act. They're also more competitive in their approach. By contrast, the farmer is going to plant crops today, but will likely not see the fruits of that labor for months. They have a very future-oriented context. By definition, by necessity, they have to be probably the most optimistic of all the archetypes. Because why would you invest work today if you didn't have a closely held belief that'll pay off for you down the road? The second way these two groups differ is in terms of how they define success. Again, let's consider the farmer. The farmer cultivating his or her fields does not care how good of a job the person next door is doing. The results of others do not impact the farmer's definition of how well he or she is doing. They have a subjective opinion of success. If they quietly go about the work of doing their job, of cultivating their fields, they're going to be successful no matter how well others are doing. But the Olympian cannot go there. If you think about the Olympic sprinter, the Olympian sprinter knows that he or she has won the race when they cross the finish line first. So these people are constantly measuring themselves to the objective world around, to objective measures of the world around them. They're big on benchmarking. They're big on competition. Now, these may not seem like big differences, but they do have huge ramifications for issues going forward, as we shall see in the videos to come. Now, that's an overview of the 12 value archetypes and how each of the 12 archetypes is divided into 6 different pairs, which can be very useful in helping to predict who it is you're most likely to have strong disagreements with. You'll come to find, if you stay with me, to realize that this tool has huge impacts and ramifications for a wide variety of issues. But before we go further into our next videos, one important note I want to leave you with. There are elements of each of these archetypes in all of us, just in varying degrees. But it is through the variance in how we choose to identify these archetypes in that intellectual diversity that lies the nature and the fuel for impasse that happens in our world. I hope you've enjoyed listening to this overview of the value archetype model, and I hope to see you in the next videos to come. Thank you very much for your time.